This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the program. We have a packed agenda today covering everything from major corporate collapses and legal settlements to the future of artificial intelligence and global shipping security. Let's get started.
Spirit Airlines reveals final liquidation plans in court filings.
America faces a rare major airline failure with Spirit.
Sam Altman uses AI agents to fix morning emails.
The GTA CEO avoids the vices his games sell.
Elon Musk settles SEC lawsuit over his Twitter purchase.
Shipping firms worry about safety in the Hormuz Strait.
Costco warehouses are getting significantly more crowded lately.
Reform UK immigration policies pose risks to the economy.
Starting with Spirit's end.
Spirit Airlines has officially laid out its final hours in a massive 500-page court filing that details a desperate but ultimately failed attempt to stay afloat. The carrier confirmed that it began preparing for a total wind-down last Thursday after realizing a government bailout was simply not coming. According to the filing, the primary catalyst for the collapse was the skyrocketing cost of jet fuel, driven largely by the ongoing conflict involving Iran. Between March and April alone, the airline burned through a staggering $100 million just in fuel expenses. Chief Financial Officer Fred Cromer stated that despite fighting valiantly for months to reorganize, the lack of cash left them with no alternative but an orderly liquidation. It is a somber end for a company that tried every possible avenue to survive.
The scale of this filing really highlights how quickly things unraveled once the cash reserves hit a critical low. Spirit had been attempting to pivot its business model and find a merger partner for a long time, but the market conditions were just too hostile. The filing notes that the material additional costs from fuel were the final blow that made any path to recovery impossible. For passengers and employees, this means the end of an era for the ultra-low-cost pioneer in the United States. The liquidation plan outlines how the company will manage its remaining assets and debt, but the core message is clear. The money ran out. It serves as a stark reminder of how sensitive the airline industry is to global geopolitical events and energy prices, which can turn a struggling business into a failed one almost overnight.
Next up,
while Spirit's failure has sent shockwaves through the American aviation sector, it is worth noting that this kind of collapse is actually quite common in the rest of the world. In markets like Europe, Canada, and Australia, airline failures are seen as a routine part of the industry's natural boom and bust cycle. However, in the United States, Spirit is the first major carrier to go out of business in over 2 decades. This long period of stability was largely the result of massive consolidation. Following a wave of bankruptcies in the early 2000s, mergers created an oligopoly where American, Delta, United, and Southwest control about 3/4 of all domestic seats. This structure was designed to provide resilience, but Spirit's sudden exit is now forcing a fresh look at whether this protectionist environment has actually stifled competition and left consumers with fewer choices.
That stability in the U.S. market has definitely come with trade-offs. While the big four carriers have become incredibly robust, the smaller niche players have struggled to find their footing. Spirit was the primary disruptor, keeping prices low by offering a bare-bones service that forced larger competitors to offer basic economy fares. Without that downward pressure, there are concerns about what happens to ticket prices on popular routes. In other countries, when an airline fails, a new one often pops up to fill the void relatively quickly because the regulatory environment expects turnover. In America, the barriers to entry are so high that Spirit's departure might leave a permanent hole in the low-cost segment. It is a fascinating moment where the American model of stability is being tested against the more volatile, yet perhaps more dynamic international approach to aviation.
Now let's shift to
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman recently shared a personal anecdote about using AI to solve a very relatable problem: the dreaded morning inbox. Altman revealed that he used an AI agent system called OpenClaw to build a custom application that manages his overwhelming stream of morning messages. He described the process of waking up to a mountain of communications as an unpleasant task that he had always wanted to automate. By using OpenClaw, which is designed to take actions across different apps rather than just generating text, he was able to create a tool that finally worked the way he wanted. Altman was so impressed by the results that he called it one of the biggest magic moments he has ever experienced in the field of artificial intelligence. It represents a shift from simple chatbots to agents that can actually execute workflows.
The excitement from Altman is significant because it signals where OpenAI is heading next. He mentioned that he has since rebuilt this messaging tool using OpenAI's own Codex model and is experimenting with similar agents for home automation. This move toward agentic technology is a major focus for the company, which even hired OpenClaw's creator Peter Steinberger earlier this year. These systems are designed to plan and execute tasks autonomously, which is a step closer to the goal of artificial general intelligence. Altman noted that the experience was much more magical than it sounds, suggesting that the seamless integration of AI into daily chores is finally becoming a reality. As OpenAI prepares to release more advanced models like GPT 5.5, the focus is clearly shifting from just talking to AI to having AI actually do the work for us.
Moving on,
Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, presents a fascinating paradox. He is the man behind Grand Theft Auto, a franchise famous for its depiction of crime, violence, and every imaginable vice. Yet, in his personal life, Zelnick is famously straight-laced. At 68 years old, he is a fitness enthusiast who trains at least once a day, doesn't smoke or drink, and has never even received a speeding ticket. Perhaps most surprisingly, the head of one of the world's largest gaming companies doesn't actually play video games himself. He prefers to watch others play, arguing that being a consumer-in-chief isn't necessary to be an effective CEO. He is currently overseeing the development of GTA 6, which is expected to be one of the most expensive and highly anticipated entertainment releases in history, with a budget potentially reaching $1.5 billion.
the stakes for this upcoming release are incredibly high. The previous installment, GTA 5, sold over 225 million copies and made $1 billion in its first 3 days. Zelnick is tasked with ensuring the new game lives up to that legacy in a much more expensive development environment. Analysts suggest the price tag for the game could even break the $100 barrier, reflecting the massive investment required for modern AAA titles. Zelnick's disciplined, business-first approach is a sharp contrast to the chaotic world his games portray, but it seems to be exactly what Take-Two needs to manage such a high-risk project. He remains focused on the bottom line and the quality of the narrative, even if he isn't the one holding the controller. It is a unique leadership style that has kept the company at the top of the industry.
Next,
Elon Musk has finally settled a long-running civil lawsuit with the SEC regarding his 2022 purchase of Twitter, now known as X. The regulator accused Musk of waiting too long to disclose his initial 5% stake in the company, which allegedly allowed him to buy more shares at artificially low prices. Under the terms of the settlement, a trust in Musk's name will pay a $1.5 million civil penalty. Crucially, Musk does not have to admit to any wrongdoing, and he won't be forced to give up the estimated $150 million the SEC claimed he saved through the delay. His lawyer, Alex Spiro, stated that Musk has now been cleared of all issues related to the filing. This settlement brings an end to one of the many legal battles Musk has faced with federal regulators over the years.
the timing of this settlement is quite interesting, coming shortly after a change in leadership at the SEC and just as the agency's enforcement priorities are being refocused. While the $1.5 million fine is the largest ever for this specific type of disclosure violation, it is a tiny fraction of Musk's nearly $800 billion net worth. The SEC had originally pushed for him to repay the full $150 million in savings, but legal experts suggested that would have been a difficult case to win in court. This agreement allows both parties to move on without a lengthy and public trial. Musk has had a notoriously fraught relationship with the SEC since 2018, but this resolution suggests a desire to clear the decks as he continues to integrate his various business ventures like XAI and SpaceX.
Now to
The global shipping industry is reacting with skepticism to Donald Trump's new plan to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Dubbed Project Freedom, the plan involves the U.S. Navy guiding stranded ships out of the waterway as a humanitarian gesture. However, the situation on the ground remains incredibly volatile. Shortly after the announcement, reports surfaced of a U.S. warship being targeted by missiles, though the U.S. denied any hits. Oil prices jumped over 5% as news of fires on other vessels in the Gulf spread. Shipping experts and labor unions are questioning whether this plan is actually sustainable or if it might just create more danger for seafarers. About 20% of the world's oil and gas typically passes through this strait, but traffic has almost completely stopped since the conflict began in late February, leaving over 800 ships effectively trapped in the region.
The concerns from the shipping community are very practical. Captains are worried about mines, insurance coverage, and the willingness of their crews to risk their lives, even with a military escort. One tanker captain stated he would not take the risk of attempting to leave until the area is truly safe for navigation. While the U.S. Central Command reported that 2 merchant vessels did successfully transit the strait recently, the broader industry remains on edge. Trump's social media posts suggested that he has instructed representatives to use best efforts to get crews out, but the lack of specific operational details is causing hesitation. For an industry that relies on predictable safety, a high-profile military operation in a combat zone is a difficult proposition. The standoff continues to disrupt global energy markets as the world waits to see if Project Freedom can actually deliver.
Switching gears.
If you feel like your local Costco has become a bit of a madhouse lately, you aren't imagining it. New data from Placer.ai shows that store visits to Costco have surged by more than 18% since 2019. This is a massive increase compared to competitors like Walmart and Target, where foot traffic has remained relatively flat over the same period. Consumers are flocking to the warehouse club in search of relief from inflation, drawn by the value of bulk buying and the famous low-cost rotisserie chickens. However, this success is creating a major crowding problem. The shopping experience, which Costco fans often call a treasure hunt, is starting to feel more like a struggle for survival. To combat this, the company is getting creative with new technology and store layouts to keep the aisles moving and prevent shoppers from feeling trapped in the crowds.
Costco is taking several steps to manage this influx of people. They are building new warehouses specifically to relieve pressure on existing high-volume locations and expanding parking lots where possible. Inside the stores, they have introduced membership card scanners at the entrance to speed up the entry process and are testing a new service where employees scan items directly in a shopper's cart to bypass traditional checkout lines. The challenge for Costco is maintaining the balance between a store that is busy and one that is simply too crowded to enjoy. Retailers usually want people to linger and make impulse buys, but if the experience becomes too stressful, customers might stop coming. So far, the membership numbers suggest that people are willing to brave the crowds for the savings, but the company knows it has to keep innovating to prevent the warehouse from becoming a victim of its own success.
Finally,
in the United Kingdom, economists are sounding the alarm over the potential impact of Reform UK's immigration policies. While much of the global focus is on the Middle East, there is a growing concern that anti-immigration measures could cause significant disruption to the British economy. Estimates suggest the party might seek the departure of at least 2 million people, a figure much higher than previous discussions of deporting 600,000. This could lead to a mini exodus of vital workers, particularly in the NHS and the care sector, where foreign-born staff are already reporting increased levels of hostility. If experienced doctors and nurses leave, the resulting increase in waiting lists could cause labor shortages across the entire economy and potentially drive up inflation. It is a scenario that many believe poses a much greater risk than the current orderly decline in net migration.
the economic ramifications extend beyond just the healthcare sector. A climate of fear could deter foreign students from attending UK universities, which are a major source of revenue and talent. Furthermore, foreign direct investment could suffer if international corporations feel the UK is no longer a welcoming place for their global staff. Some entrepreneurs are already expressing concerns about the safety of their families and are considering moving their future investments outside of the country. While proponents of these policies argue for a focus on GDP per capita, critics warn that a sudden and forced reduction in the population would be chaotic and damaging in the short run. The uncertainty surrounding these policies is creating a sense of unease in the business community as they weigh the potential for long-term economic instability against the current political climate in the United Kingdom.
That's our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us for this daily roundup of the stories that matter. Be sure to follow the show for your next update tomorrow.